Hello again, this is Cherry in Florida. It's been a while, hasn't it? What with last year and COVID and getting married and moving to a new home and getting a new craft room, which has given me lots of inspiration for new projects, and this is my latest one. So you should be seeing more of me from now on. Anyway, I'm in Bates Motel or psycho mode at the moment, so I made a tissue box first of all for my Bates Motel psycho themed guest bathroom, which might seem a little quirky, but it's good fun, and I'll take you on a tour of that later. This video was recorded after the tutorial so that I could show you the finished product in its full glory, and I put it on a board. I then made up a grassy board to put it on, which I think also enhances it. And as for the tissue boxes, I'll come back to my themed tissue boxes in another video another time. So we're going to move on and I'll show you how I put this together. I'll just make one comment. You'll hear a jangling bell sort of noise every now and then, and that's our Ring doorbell, and I didn't realise or notice at the time that that was going on during the video, and I could have switched it off if I'd thought about it, so sorry about that. But so here we go, and I'll show you how we put this together. Oh, before I do that, I'll show you what I based it on. I have a picture of Bates Motel from Universal Studios, and I tried to make it as much like that building as I could. I don't have any hill to put it on with the steps coming down the front, but the actual building, I think it came out quite realistic looking in the end, and I replaced that skylight window with a little clock. So this is my Bates Motel clock, and I'll see you later. Okay, I'm back. So let's start and get this together. Now, I've constructed quite a lot of it without you, because this is not a beginner project. It's for someone more experienced, and those of you who are more experienced and have made my clocks before probably know the method that it's put together, but I'm going to explain it all step by step. And in any case, I had to put pieces together to work out how to get it all to fit. And there were a few adjustments along the way. Mine has when I was looking for a clock, I was just going to use the usual little quartz clock that you can find in all sorts of places. I usually buy them from AliExpress actually, because they're amazingly inexpensive from there. But all the craft stores have them too. And I made a little clock face, and I was going to put some small hand, it would have to be very small hands, but you can find hands in all sizes on there. And it's so that there's a piece in the pattern you're going to use in the project in Design Space with a small hole in it to take into account that kind of clock. When I was looking in my clock box, I found this little clock. I forget now where I got it from, but I'll see if I can find out, and I'll put the information in the description below this video if you're interested, if I can find it, which requires a much bigger hole to fit that in, but I rather liked that. It seemed to me felt more like a window when I pushed it in, because it has this big collar to it, and I covered it in cardstock to make it look like part of the roof. And I also used vellum for behind the windows, so that the light can shine through it. This one is a sort of slightly greenish, yellowish colour that I got from Amazon in a pack of mixed colours, and I'll put the link for that in the description. But you could just as easily use a normal plain vellum if you wanted to, and it would still look pretty good. And just because I wanted to be awkward for me, I haven't included this in the directions and I found a piece of acetate in my acetate and vellum box that was striped. Cricut used to carry it, they don't anymore as far as I know, and I put them together to make like little paned windows, which actually was quite it was a fussy thing to do that wasn't the easiest thing, so you could do just as well without it. So you'll see those windows have got that in front of them and they've got the vellum behind them, because I want to put light inside there afterwards, because in the top window, I think you can just about see here, is an old lady in a rocking chair that's meant to be Norman Bates' mother from the movie. So that'll look quite creepy when it lights up. I'll put some lights in and I'll show you how I'm going to do that later. That have a timer, on battery lights with a timer probably, that I'm going to use. And so onwards, I will tell you how I put it all together. So the main part of the building is 4 pieces. There's a big square opening at the back. That's going to be a little door where you're going to access the lights when you do that. There's 2 windows on each side, and then there's 4 windows on the piece at the front, which is one big piece. And then there's this extra little piece of the building that comes out, and that's got this big window here and 2 side pieces. And all of this is stuck together with these construction strips, both on the inside of each seam and on the outside of each seam. I usually do the inside first, and I try and get them all, the edges as close as I can together, and put them on the inside, and then I stick them again on the outside. Now, it's very important to do things in the right order, and I say this because I quite often don't. I forget what I should do, and if you don't do things in the right order, sometimes you can't get the pieces together that you want to, because something else is in the way. And I shouldn't have stuck these front pieces on at this point until I'd completely finished what I was supposed to do with this. But I think I can work around it. It will still be a sturdy building, and it will have enough seams that are both inside and outside in other places to hold it together nice and firmly. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to, I think I'm going to put this piece on, which is part of the roof. And the reason it has a gap in it is because when you put that on there, this will slide in from the front and stay on there quite firmly, but you'll be able to remove it when you want to change the battery in your clock, and I'll show you that when we come to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is put this on, and if you have a look, you'll see that I've already put the inside construction pieces on each side, and I'm going to place this on the top of it. So I'm going to put the glue on those, and again, I shouldn't even have put these on yet, because they can be glued to the covering pieces that's going to be on the wall, but I'll show you that in a moment. So I'm going to put glue all around that border. Like that. And I'm just going to press this carefully into place on here, making sure that all the edges match up, and press it down. You may find, depending on the material you're using, that you have to sometimes trim little pieces off. Some of what you're doing, it's not an exact science. and I do that occasionally, but I've tried to make the pieces as near as the size that you need them to be as I can. And I'm going to keep pressing from the inside until the glue dries to make sure it stays where I want it. And then, when I'm happy with that, I'm going to put pieces of, and make sure that yours won't be there at this point, but I make sure that my little railings up here are standing upright, so that the roof needs to make sure it's not pushing those over. And that. When I'm happy with that, then I'm going to put the outside construction strips on all four sides. Well, that one I can't because I already stuck the railings on, and this one I can't either. But I'm going to put them on these two sides. And I may be able to put something behind these railings, a smaller construction strip. I'll cut down, and I'll show you in a minute, just so that if you make the same sort of mistakes that I make, that you know how to remedy it. So let's start with this one, and I didn't say, but in the project in Design Space, I put many of these, all different sizes. I ran out of them because I've been sticking things and unsticking things and everything else, and I'm going to cut these down to size. I just cut a few more, all the same size, and you may need to cut more, or you may want different size ones, but if I filled up the mat with hundreds of these, it would just take too long to load. So you can cut them twice, or you can do all that sort of thing. So I'm going to do this first. And I'm going to cut this one to the shape of the roof on this side. And I'm going to cut that one, that side too. To the shape of the roof, and I'll show you when I've cut it. Trim it down. And so it's actually like that. So glue that into place. And when you have these strips on both sides of a seam or join, it makes a very firm result. Sturdy and firm. So there's the first one. And I might need to trim that a little more because it's sticking over the edge, and you will find that. You can trim them down as you go. And there's my first. And then another one across the back. Which again I'm going to cut to size. Trim to size. And the roof ones in particular you will need to trim because all of them are just flat on the ends, and you need a shaped one for the roof. Something like that. Not quite. Let's see if that's better. That looks pretty good. You don't want any gaps if you can help it. in the corners. So I think I cut that one a little short. I'll keep that one for the next one, and I'll do it again a bit more carefully this time. Bigger scissors, that might help. And that one's almost right. Just needs a little tiny bit more. Is that better? Yes, I'll trim off any excess afterwards rather than cut it short. And I'll glue that. I'm gluing deliberately all down the crease. And it's going to stick to the building. Make sure up to the edges. And put that one in place. And that looks good. And I'll trim this little tiny bit off here. There. So that's the second one. Okay, so we're back again and we've got all those seams gone nice and firmly down. And we're ready to stick the outer pieces of roof covering on. I'm going to start with this piece that fits on there, and it's fitting pretty nicely. It's a little bit on that way. I'm just going to trim a tiny piece off. And that seems to fit nicely, like that. So I'm going to glue that on. So again, gluing right up to the edges, making sure that it's going to stick down firmly, and putting that on here. And now I can stick the other parts of the roof covering on, but before I do, I'm going to adhere these railing parts to them, and I'm bent them slightly so that they stand up straight when they're on the roof, because the roof is a slight slant. And I'm going to glue that to the back of the, let's move this over a little so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to glue that there, and make sure they're all the same height. In other words, they've got this part is the same distance all the way around, so much as you can, and that will go there. So I'll stick that on now. There we are. That's going to go on this side here. Make sure that it's nice and evenly. Like that. And finally, these two pieces. That's the back of the roof, and we're going to stick this to it first before we adhere it. that's going to go there. And I'll leave it there. Right up to the edges, and I'll stick that on and then turn it round to show you. And try and get the railings all at the same level. That looks about right, and that's like that. And then there's this one. The railings are already stuck on, so I don't need to stick anything to that. I just need to get it nice and evenly on there. And then we've got 2 more pieces to fit on the front. That's it. Same as the others. This time I have to have it facing me to make sure I get it on nice and straight and even. That's that. Coming along. And finally we have 2 pieces. I can find them. Okay, I found them and I had to trim them down a bit, so I'll try and make sure that the ones in the project in Design Space are a little bit more accurate in their shape. But always remember you might need to trim pieces down occasionally, and it's better that I make them a little bit too big than you find that they don't fit because they're too small. So that's those adhered, and now I'm going to stick this side piece on here. Remember that when you glue it, you don't want to glue over the top of your windows. So come down the sides, but leave the window parts uncovered. So that's this piece, and I'm going to put that in place next. And that's in place, and then there's this border piece that I put everywhere because in the picture you'll see there's sort of a separate section, and it really isn't quite like I'm doing mine, but I thought it gave some indication that there's a separate piece at the top there. So I've got maybe be more organized than me and have all your pieces ready to go. Oh, here's one of them, and there's the other piece. And so I'm going to stick this artboard piece to this cover piece first, and then I'm going to glue them onto the house. So do that first. So that's these, and these are all the way around. You'll find them. This one's shaped because it goes in to this part here, and I'm going to explain I'm going to do another little video in Design Space showing the mat and telling you what all the pieces are, and I'm going to do a colour-coded version too so that you can refer to it afterwards. But this there needs to be glued to this. And that's going there. And I'll show you when I've got it in place. And These are the gutters, by the way, and we've got to put some more of those on in a moment. But that piece there is stuck on that side here at the top. Let's see what I'm doing there. So that's that. But before we stick anything else on, in fact I should have done it really before I stuck that on, like I usually do on this stuff. We're going to stick the base on, and the base, this is the base. This is the base of the house and also the patio at the front. So I've already put the strips on here, like I did in the other one. I can reach through the back, push it into place, and I'm going to put glue on all of that. And I'll show you in a second. And I don't really mean patio. When I said patio, I really meant porch. But I think, but anyway, you'll see. So I put glue on all the way around there. Make sure I've got it up to the edges. And up here, where it's already drying. And I'm going to hold it like this first, so I can see that I've got it in the right place. And it goes, this part sticks onto the back part, and the rest makes part of the porch. So that seems to fit nicely. And then to make sure that it's firmly down, I'm reaching inside through the back door, as it were, and I'm going to push it into place, push those into place. So I'm still going to put it on my knee because otherwise it slides around, but I was just showing you what I'm doing. So I'm reaching inside and making sure that those are sticking firmly to the base. But we're going to put some extra strips on like we do everywhere else, and we're going to put a piece. I'll start with one at the back first. I guess that's just near enough. So I'm going to put one when I've got it on my knee, holding it in place. I'm going to put a construction strip over the top at the back first. Right here. Nice and smooth. And then when that's firmly stuck, I'm going to reach inside again and push that seam up to meet. That's good. Yeah. And I'm going to do the same with those two and these two, and I'll pause you while I do that so that you don't get too bored. So I put one here, and I'm going to put one here, a little one across here, and down here, and a little one across there next. And I will come back to you in a moment. So, on to the next stage. I've now glued all the gutters to the outside of the building, to the top here. Make sure when you do that you line them up and make sure that these corners match, and if they need any slight trimming you might need to do that. And then what I do, see where they sometimes there's a bit of a gap where they join. I don't want that, so I make little pieces of this shape and I glue them to the corners of the gutters to hold them together and make a cleaner looking finish. So I'm just going to show you do that. I trim a little piece of a construction strip into the right sort of shape. I think that one maybe needs a little trimming down. and I'll glue that in place and show you. And that holds the corners of the gutter together and makes them look neat. And if necessary, this one, you may need to just turn it slightly, and then you see it holds it together and it looks neater. And I will do the same on this one in a moment. Let me show you again on this one, so that those pieces join as well, but I won't do that just at the moment. I'm going to show you the next part. So having done that, now you can glue the outside walls on, and I've already glued the strips along the top that I used as a border. And again, avoid the getting glue onto the windows, but you want the glue to go fairly liberally everywhere, right up to the edges. And around the windows, but not on them. And make sure it's right up to the edges so that they stick down nice and flat. And that seems to be maybe a little more there. And I'm going to stick that one on. These are both identical. The ones at the front, you have to watch that you put them the right way round, and you'll see. Just watch where the windows, the holes for the windows are. On these sides, they are the same. So make sure that it sticks nice and firmly around all the edges. If you do have any gaps, you can do that little trick that Leo of Dreaming Tree does, where he puts some glue on a piece of paper like this and slides it in underneath the edges. But I think this one's stuck down fairly evenly all round, and that looks good. Now we'll do the other side. It's coming along. It's nearly coming to the final stages now. And do the same for this side. And I'll quickly do that. But we're not going to put the back on yet, and I'll show you why in a moment. I think I'm up to all the edges nicely. And we'll stick that one on. Make sure you've got the windows the right way up and the border at the top. I've done all those things in the past and put things on upside down, and it's no fun trying to peel them off again. And so there we go. And at the back we're going to have a door to access the lights, and in fact this one I think I'm going to put this candle in, if I can get it in there, a timer candle, but you can use all sorts of things. Use those submersible lights, there's lights with a little timer separate and all sorts, but I quite often like a candle. This one flickers and it looks quite attractive, and it's got a timer, and so that'll look a bit creepy, and I'll show you the effect in a darker place afterwards. So the door, This is the door. And actually I could have made it bigger if I wanted to put a big candle in, but I didn't think of that in advance. But you could, if you know what you're going to put in there, you can change the size of your door. So to attach the door, quite simple. Just two construction strips again, which I'm cutting down to the size. One on the inside and one on the outside. That's the first part. So I'll do that. While I'm at it, I'll cut another piece to the same size. And so move the glue so you can see. I'm just going to put, first of all, one on the inside. And I'm going to attach that there. This is a new arrangement for filming that I've got here. It's actually a holder and so on for my phone, and I don't know yet whether I've got it in the best position and everything else for you to see. You'll have to let me know. But I tried to put it in an overhead position, and so far I didn't think that worked so well. So I'm going to put that on the inside here. So we've got this piece on the inside of the door and on the inside of the back. And now I'm going to put another piece on the outside here, and so that it can open. In fact, that probably wants to open the other way. I'll put it that way round. So I'll glue that into place and I'll show you. So I'm going to glue both sides of this one. Move it out the way so you can see both sides of that strip. And that can go there. Make the door as straight as you can. So there we just got the door attached. And make sure you can open it as much as you want and that the glue is firmly stuck. This is getting awkward to hold to show you, but we're getting there. So there we are. It will open and close. And before you put the cover on, I'm just going to go over here like this. Let's make sure it works and get it the right way up, because I also have the border strip on that one. Before you glue that down into place, I'm going to put a little magnet underneath here. You may choose a different kind of closure for your door, but I'm going to have a little magnet. And I have a little collection of tiny, thin neodymium magnets. And I may choose to put more than one, but make sure you've got the polarity the right way round. If you do, I'm going to stick one because what's going to happen is I'm going to put another one on here. In fact, perhaps I'll stick this one on first. So I'm going to stick one here. In fact, I think I'll put two so it's a little firmer. They're very strong magnets, And as I say, make sure you've got the polarity the same and they're not fighting with each other. That's it, it's attracted to that one. So I've got two and I'm going to glue them into place there. And it doesn't have to be too firmly glued because we're going to cover it with some paper. And make sure they're far enough in that the paper will stick behind them. There's room for the paper to stick on this section. And then I'm going to stick the paper over the top once they're fairly central. And that matches the paper on the back of the house. So I'm going to stick that right over the top of those magnets. And then eventually it's going to be stuck to the door. So first of all, we need to check where we want to put our magnets here for the door to close. So I'm going to stick this to the door like that so that it will close. So now the best way, we'll make sure that is trimmed to fit. Make sure that's stuck firmly. And that it all matches. Yeah. So there's the latch, as it were, for the door. Now, the best thing to do is to put your magnets on the back of that. Put your magnets there on the back. Put a tiny dot of glue on them. And I'm going to put this on here first. This is the cover for the door. And make sure that that fits fine, just about. So I'm going to stick that first, and I'll show you why. Now, put my door cover on. So I'm just sticking the cover of the door on first, and then I'm going to glue this piece where I want it on the door, about in the middle here. Something like that. Make sure it's firmly stuck. So I'm going to give that a couple of seconds. And I've wiped the glue off that I showed you, but I'm going to do it again. Make sure you've got a little tiny dot of glue on the back of your magnets. And push your door shut. And it will leave little marks where your batteries are going to go. Not batteries, magnets are going to go. And I'm going to peel those off and put them right there where the little white marks are. They came from the glue. They're very tiny. I don't know whether you can see them, but there's a little, let me turn it round, little tiny white marks here where the batteries touched, and I'm going to put them over there on the side, and remember to glue them with the side that's got the glue pieces on, because that's the right polarity. And so they're there like that, and I'm not going to close it yet or it will pull them off, but I then put this cover over on top of them. So I've got the two batteries, oh I keep saying batteries and I really mean magnets. I've got the two magnets already stuck down there. The other two are sandwiched in this part. I'm going to put this over the top and glue that down, and then the batteries should, I don't know what's wrong with me today, then the magnets should be attracted to each other. Let's get that done. I seem to have batteries on my mind for some reason, other than that I needed some for the lights I was looking for before I spoke to you again. So, making sure I have this the right way up, I'm going to carefully stick that on there, pulling the door through first, and stick that down on the back, like that. And there's the door. And then that should be attracted to those magnets, especially since it's going to be at the back in my bathroom. And this is not quite stuck as well as I want it to at the top here, or at top. So I'm going to add a little more glue and hold that firmly in place for a moment, and we're on the finishing streak. Yes, that's holding fine. Yeah, that's good. And so there it is, held shut by the two little magnets. And there we are. But we still have one more step to go. Well, firstly, I'm going to show you how this works. The clock here on the tower actually just slides into the front, and it's a fairly tight squeeze because you don't want it to be loose, but there it is. And so you can take that on and off to put the clock battery in. This time I do mean battery. Put the battery into the clock. So there we are so far, back and the front and the tower. But there's one more, you see in the top of the roof there's a hole. We're going to fill that up, and I just have a little piece of, might even stand up for this, I think I will. You can probably see better then anyway. And I'm just going to, I've already put construction strips on the inside on all 4 walls, and I'm just going to glue, I think I'll glue the strips. I'll probably glue the square as well. Should have done it before I put it in there, shouldn't I? Anyway. And I'm just going to wiggle that piece in there to place. Pretty sure it fits. I've tried it before. Maybe it needs to go around this way. Or maybe I just need to take the clock tower off. Shall we do that? And I can push it down into place more easily because I can see what I'm doing. There we are. I knew it fitted. And I'm going to push up from underneath as usual. So I did need to take it off anyway to make sure that all those strips are firmly adhered. Yes, that's better. And so you can see from the inside all the little construction strips are stuck to the bottom. And we have a piece of this to match to go on the top. Yes, that looks like it'll go fine. So I'll stick that down. I guess I could have put that on before I ever pressed the other part in, but there we go. Put that in. Yeah, and that is nicely stuck too. Just glue there. on the inside. So we'll push that back in. You need to put it on a level and slide it in until it's in the right place, up against the back of the roof, look, and the square on the front. I haven't put that little piece there that's going to go on the gutter. I'll do that when you've gone. Put that there. And now it's going to be the porch. So let's have a look. The porch goes just underneath the window. Just a tiny gap underneath the window, something like that. I'll do that first. So some glue on the tab there, and I'm going to put this straight on here and carefully make sure it's even and level and just under the window, and press that on. And then I'm going to stick one side at a time, but I want to make sure this is firmly glued first. I don't want it to move. So I'm just letting that stick into place, just slightly, like a millimetre showing. I'll move it just a little bit. I'm going to do one side at a time. I'm going to put glue on both of those tabs. Do that here. So, and I'll turn it round so you can see. And I'm going to stick it first to the side, and at the same time it should stick onto the wall behind, and that's just above the window. And make sure that that's nicely, so like that. So I stuck it to the side wall, and at the same time it sticks at a diagonal against the wall. And I'm going to do the other side and make sure that they match. And if you look, that's just above the window. I'm just making sure that's even on the wall while it still can move. And I think that's up a bit, something like that. And you'll see it's just above this window here. And on the other side, the same. So I'm going to do the same thing there, and I'm looking at it, making sure they look even, pushing it against this wall that the big window's in, and letting it come against the rear wall on a sort of diagonal just above the window. Make sure that looks even. And they're just above the window here too. That's it. And so there they are. And you can see they are just above each of those windows on the rear wall and on the side as well. Now, what I'm going to do next, let's put this sideways so you can see it, is the posts. And I've got to check these, and I'm going to check these off camera first, but I'll just tell you how I put them together. There are 2 for each post, and in my case I used a little bit of scrap chipboard and sandwiched it between the 2 of them just to give it a bit of body. So I just, if you have piles of spare chipboard pieces, and I just decided what sort of width I wanted it to be and chopped them off, and when I got one at the size I wanted it to be, I did several more of them, and I think I've got one here somewhere that isn't glued together yet. But anyway, there should be 8 for the porch and 2 for the sign when you've finished. So I'll make sure I've got all of those and I'll get it together for you. Okay, so final construction part. I put half of the posts onto the patio and I put a couple of the fences or railings up, and I'll show you how I did that. But first of all, I just show you this. These are the kind of waste pieces of chipboard that get left over from all the cutouts or artboard or whatever you want to call it, that I use to cut just a small piece like this, which I sandwiched in my posts to give them a little extra strength. You get lots of these sort of things, and I save them in a box because I use them for all sorts of things. I use them in place of foam squares. I pile them up on top of each other, little pieces of it, and I prefer them to foam squares, especially if I'm wanting to layer anything that's dark, but we'll talk about that on another occasion. But that's what I did. So I'll do the same with this one. I just got 2 post pieces and I put the piece of board in between. I didn't bother to put these in the pattern because, as I say, you have so many little pieces of waste left over that you may as well use those rather than put another new piece in just to cut these pieces. And there we are, sandwiched together, just like that. And then bend the tabs at the ends to stick them to the porch. And the other thing that I've done, stick together the Bates Motel sign. I just have the printed part and 2 little chipboard or artboard pieces, and I sandwiched them together with 2 of these posts in between, and then I put them onto just a little square of board, again a little piece of waste board, and actually I cut little pieces, you can probably see that there, to look like boards and also to hold the feet of the posts in place more firmly, and I thought it gave it a sort of rustic look. So that could stand, if we got the house here, it could just stand anywhere where you want it to, in front of the hotel or at the side or somewhere like that. So you're going to stick your posts on. I did the first one at the side about 1 inch in, and then I did a second one about ½ an inch from the corner here. And I'm going to put 2 more at the front. And I'll try and put this where you can see it. And all I did was to put glue on the top and bottom, little like that. And then I've got to make sure they match up at the front, but I fed them in under here and I tried to make sure, and I brought them right up to the edge, or at least the tab right up to the edge. And then I'm trying to, so I put the tab here. Wait a minute, it's so hard to show you on black cardstock, but I've got the tab of it right up to the edge. And then when I've got the bottom part placed where I want it, having looked if it matches the one on the other side, which it just about does, then I put my fingers up under the roof here and push those tabs firmly into place, like that. And there they are. And I've got posts on the sides facing outwards, and then when you get to the front, I'm facing them outwards again. So instead of having them like this, you want them to have the wide part facing outwards. And I've got just one more to stick, and the last one. Now the last one, I'm using the fence to decide where it goes to, or railings, and I shouldn't have glued that yet. I forgot to show you this part. The railings have a scored part, and there's also a second one, and I actually stuck two together to give them more strength. This one doesn't have a scored part, and this one does. And I'm going to stick them just on top of each other. Glue them so they just like that. Okay, with a little bit of fiddling around, I've got them to where I want them. And now I've just got to stick the little pieces of railings on. And I'm going to put the front one on first, so that I get that in the right place. And as I just stick along the little tab here. And I want it to come to a similar place that the other one is, on the other side. And that's there now. And then the side one, I want it to match up to the edges of that one, to the corner. And we had a little bit of fiddle around to get those posts where I wanted them, but a Sharpie can cover a lot of little problems, or a little bit of black acrylic paint. And that's about right. Now, you see how right at the corner here, these two gape a little bit. I'm going to put a little tiny fence post to join those up together, and I'm just going to cut a little piece like this. Hold it in the middle. See how high I want it. Cut it just above the onto a point. See how that works. Let's see. And all I've got is just a little piece of folded black paper, and I'm going to stick that on the corner down here to make these fences or railings come together in the corner there. And I'll do that. And I have to hold that for a minute. Let's see if it matches the other side, which it seems to. And you can see I've got like a little fence post on each corner that holds the railings together. Now, oh, and I forgot to tell you one more thing I did when I was off camera. If you look at the picture, Bates Motel again, you'll see that the roof has some lighter sort of grey down the edges, and I decided to cut some small pieces of, which are in the Cricut project mat, very thin pieces of light grey, which I've stuck down the edges like this to simulate that effect on the roof in this one. That's entirely optional. It looks pretty good without it, but I just felt that I wanted to do that. So I will finish sticking those on. And the other thing, the only other thing I'm going to do, and here we are, let's hold it up a bit. The only other thing I'm thinking of doing, as you can see in the picture, it's not all pristine like this one. It's got little dark pieces and lighter pieces where the sun's faded it, and where it's got a little darker, probably with rain and so on. And I'm going to use a little bit of these inks to distress mine a little. Okay, just to show you a little bit of the inking process, I used these 3 inks. Let me move this tissue box out of the way. Distress Oxide Frayed Burlap, just a very little amount of that. I used Tim Holtz Distress Ink, Ranger in fact, Black Soot, and I also used Picket Fence Distress Ink as well. And I found that the easiest way to do it, I use these little cosmetics sponges or triangles, wedges from my local Dollars shop, and I found that if I just stroked it on, it gave a more subtle effect than some of the other application ways of doing it. And I basically just referred to the picture and looked where I thought that they should go. And so the tops of the posts on the porch I noticed were sort of white and faded in the picture, so I tried to make mine the same. And there were sort of streaks on the roof, which I sort of also tried to get the impression of as well. And that was basically it. I just dabbed it on gently in various places until I got the effect I wanted. I tended to put more of the black down the edges or seams of the building, and some white highlights where I thought the faded bits were. And then finally, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I put this onto a board. I had a little bit of reindeer moss again I painted it first with acrylic paints and dabbed it on. I glued a little of the reindeer moss I just mentioned onto the sign, and I put it in a couple of places on the board to make it look a little bit like a fairly messy yard around the building, and that's it. So apart from the little video I'm going to show you of the bathroom, of it in place, that's goodbye from me. So here we are in the Bates Motel Psycho themed bathroom, and I'm probably going to put Bates Motel on that soap dispenser, and there's the tissue box. And here's the house, the motel house. And up there is a Bates Motel sign that lights up at night, but that's not on at the moment. And Universal Studios towels, and slightly spooky shower curtain, but not too scary really. And I'll just turn the light off so you can see this a little better. And there it is. So that's the end. I hope you enjoyed it. So goodbye from Cherry, and Bates Motel.